Ad klaxon ris blaj blanarnik karnik. Ad trasula.
Hey everyone, Genome here, coming to the next episode of my Star Trek The Next Generation review series. This is the series where I take a look back at each and every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation and to see if it lives up to the lofty ideals and memories that I have rolling around in this cranium of mine. So, I am still in the doldrums of Season 1. I don't know if I'm halfway through it yet, but I'm getting there. I'm plodding along slowly but surely. And the next episode is an interesting one. It's basically the first of the much maligned holodeck episodes. This is none other than The Big Goodbye.
This is the big goodbye.
This one's kind of a pastiche, to put it lightly. It's definitely an homage to, the Raymond Chandlers and, the Phil Marlowe types and the Lou Archer series and all that, so for those who aren't as big a fan of the genre, they might not get as much enjoyment out of it, but it's an odd duck. It is an interesting episode, so I'll go ahead and give you a brief synopsis of what's going on, and then I'll go over some pros and cons at the end and tell you what I feel about the episode. So we start off, the Enterprise is obviously on a mission to start diplomatic relations with a race called the Harada. Apparently it's an insectoid race, but they're completely off screen the entire time. And so Picard has been straining to memorize the opening greeting in their language. It's very difficult. He's obviously worn out. And Troy suggests he spends a little time on the holodeck, which is newly installed, even though it was kind of there before, but I think it's been upgraded now, they were saying.
Captain's personal log. I'm entering the ship's holodeck, where images of reality can be created by our computer.
Some nonsense like that. Whatever. So Picard finally relents. He actually does this much easier than he normally does, and decides to go down the holodeck.
Highly useful in crew training. Highly enjoyable when used for games and recreation.
There he recreates the character of Dixon Hill. Philip Marlowe, if you will. Lou Archer, if you will. Travis McGee light, if you will. I'm a huge fan of the old crime noir stuff, so forgive my fanboyism there. But anyway, so he recreates it. Starts off with kind of a sharp scene with his secretary.
Mr. Leach called twice, and there's a lady named Bradley waiting in your office. Nice legs. Not you, her.
And it's kind of funny, and I'll go into this a little bit more. It's so weird. This episode, the best actors in this episode are all the tertiary holodeck characters. Makes no sense, and it shouldn't be that way, but they are. Everyone else, including Picard in this, is pretty lifeless, except for this really out-of-place scene where they're doing a conference, and Picard's going on and on about the holodeck here.
And when I looked down into the street, I actually saw automobiles.
It's so out of character, and I know his character's barely been developed yet, but still, even for what little's been developed, this is out of character for him. It also starts what is many problems with later holodeck episodes, kind of, in a way, but this one has a faux pas right off the bat. He gets a little peck on the cheek from his first client, the rich socialite that's going to use his services. She's really well acted too, actually. You don't barely see any of her, though. And so she kisses him in the holodeck, and he walks out with lipstick still on his face.
Save current setting.
Current setting saved.
Holodeck off.
Yes, we find out that's impossible, including in this very episode we find out this is impossible, but whatever, it makes for a comedic scene, right? So let's just say that this basically entire episode hinges on the holodeck, and the Harada send out a probe. Apparently this probe causes the ship to shake for whatever reason, and it causes random power fluctuations. And where does that power fluctuation go? You guessed it, to the holodeck. So all of a sudden, the holodeck is, how should we say, a death trap. Apparently, not only did the holodeck malfunction to where it won't take voice commands, but it also disengaged the safety protocols. And because of that scene right there, the holodecks would never be used on a starship again. It's just too dangerous if something so minor like this could cause someone to die. But no, they never learn. They keep using them and they keep screwing up with them. But anyway, I digress. So the problem presents itself, and who do we have to fix it? That's right, Wesley Crusher, the master of all systems upon the Enterprise. So we have Wesley to thank for fixing this in the end.
Commander, I've studied all the technical manuals on the holodeck, sir. I think I can be of some help down there.
I will say, though, it's kind of a cool... I love this little gadget they use to look at the holodeck program while it's running, like this little arthroscope or whatever they pull off and they put on, and I don't know if he's examining the circuitry or if he can see what's going on inside, but it's just a really cool little optical thing. You never see it again, but I think it's, I don't know, it's a cool little prop. I like it. So Wesley's working diligently on the problem because his mom's in there too. He brings in this 20th century historian. Don't ask me. With him, Data goes in there with him, and McFadden goes in there with him. So there's some interesting imagery. I really like this scene when they first walk into the holodeck together. It's a really nice transition from the space corridor of the Enterprise to, the 1940s. Very nice little period piece they did there. A lot of cringe-inducing lines of the Enterprise crew trying to talk local jargon and time-specific jargon. It's strained and annoying.
He's on ice.
Pardon?
He's being grilled.
What is he, a fish?
He's being interrogated. They think he committed a murder.
Whatever, they get into character, right, I guess. So, we're making my way through the program. See, a lot of people, they don't realize once they've been in the program that something is wrong until basically the guy gets shot, right?
Oh.
So now they're trying to figure out a way to survive, basically. And, you got stuff going on the outside with Harada getting impatient about waiting for Picard and whatever. It's not really anything to worry about. But the middle section of this episode is really draggy and dull, and I know they're trying for ambiance, but it just doesn't work that well. But this episode does kick in a little bit overdrive at the last third. All right. So after the man shot by Mr. Leach, the 20th century historian, in eventually comes Cyrus Redblock. Okay, Cyrus Redblock is played by Lawrence Tierney, and he absolutely steals this episode from everybody. He chews the scenery like you wouldn't believe, but in a good, reserved way.
Good day, Mr. Hill. My name is Cyrus Redblock. I hope you don't mind us dropping in.
He lives and breathes this character. I love the way he talks.
I'm sure you won't mind if we take a look around.
I wish you'd quit asking, since it's obvious you're going to do it anyway. It's just a waste of time.
Good manners, madam, are never a waste of time.
He's like a perfect combination of vicious street thug and Aristotle. He speaks so eloquently, he even uses the word.
Let's begin. Make your thoughts fruitful and your words eloquent.
And it's such a nice departure from the thuggish, bad guy you used to seeing all the time. He's well-spoken, he's well-mannered, he is non-demonstrative, he doesn't move around too much, gesticulate wildly the Lost in Space robot on steroids. None of that. He's very quiet, but he's very menacing. He's a perfect bad guy in this, and it's a shame he wasn't more in the episode, because he definitely made it. His henchman, the shooter, is Felix Leach, Mr. Leach, played by Harvey Jason. Great little role here. I like this little accent he throws on, and he does have a weird tendency to hold the weapon like a child.
I am not a man to be toyed with, Mr. Hill.
You are hired to locate a certain object.
But it kind of fits his demeanor, and even though it doesn't look realistic, and it isn't realistic, really, I don't know, kind of, he's a craven kind of sort, but he's a big man behind a gun, right? Whatever. So it kind of fits him a little bit, as goofy as it looks, right? And then the last really important character you'll have in the holodeck, scenario is Lieutenant Dan Bell, played by William Boyett. He also does a really good role, and he fits in the most with the period piece here. His mannerisms and his dialect seem more natural coming out of him. So, long story short, Picard is negotiating for the life of his injured crewman. He and Cyrus go back and forth quite a bit. There's some cat and mouse play, and finally they reveal to Cyrus that, hey, everyone here is an imaginary character except for us four. And you're the illusions here, and then they walk out. Cyrus walks out of the holodeck, as it were, and problem solved. Wesley, about that time, has figured out how to fix things, and voila, doors open, and all is well. This actually leads into, this is weird too, because Picard takes a little time to talk to Lieutenant Bell, like after everything's cleared up, instead of just stopping the program, going to go take care of this Haradin problem, right? He needs to go address. He sits there and talks to the guy. But really, it's a heartfelt scene, and it makes you wonder what is going on behind the scenes of the holodeck when it's switched off.
Tell me something, Dix. When you're gone, will this world still exist?
There's stuff in Deep Space Nine where the character can still stay going and running. There's also another character, Moriarty, in this, who says he feels the passage of time even when the stuff is turned off. This is later on, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting. But it's a really heartfelt scene where Picard is talking to Lieutenant Bell about, Lieutenant Bell realizes that he's a hologram now, sort of. So it's like, what happens to me? And what about my family at home?
Will my wife and kids still be waiting for me at home?
When you leave, what happens to them? And it's just a great scene, and the music in the background is so good.
I honestly don't know.
So, yeah, all that aside, Picard runs up to the bridge, still in his 40s decor or outfit, if you will. Says the line without problem.
Ad klaxon ris blash blanarnik karnik. Ad trasula.
And all's well that ends well. And that is the end of the episode. That is the big goodbye. And it is really uneven. The first, at least half of this episode kind of sucks. I know they'd have to do setup, but it feels really disjointed. It doesn't work well. The attempts at comedy and humor really don't land. The entire Enterprise crew is so stiff and formal. It's just not very joyous to watch, Picard is unexpectedly glib and joyous to go into the holodeck. This is not new technology for him, right? They've dealt with this before. It's been on the ship for a while. And just because it's augmented doesn't make it that much more spectacular. But whatever, I'm going to quit being bad to it. Let's do some pros, okay? Some pros are the last third. The third act of this episode is great, man. After the guy takes a bullet is when it gets good. When Cyrus comes on, and all three of them in the same room together, Cyrus, Mr. Leach, and Lieutenant Bell are in the room together. It just works.
Put the gun down, Mr. Leach.
But I so much want to kill her.
Maybe later.
And that's when Picard, Patrick Stewart, actually plays his best. Is when he's going the back and forth here. When things get, gravely serious, this is when he definitely comes into his character. Very good set design here. It's a period piece. They do show some city streets, and that's kind of nice. I can never remember his name, but he is such a famous bit role actor. He always usually plays a janitor. I can't remember his name, but he was in Chopping Mall and all that. I'll put it up here somewhere if I find it. But so he was in that. He had a small role as a newsman here, or a newspaper salesman. But just lots of cool little details in here. The dress looks right. Most of the colloquialisms and the jargon. I mean, I guess it sounds good to have a pastiche novel, right? It's supposed to be a trash series anyway, right? Most of those pulp detective stories were. So I mean, it looks pretty good, and it's an interesting premise. A lot of people hate on the holodeck episodes. I don't really hate them that much. You can do interesting things in there, and it takes you off of the ship every now and then. It doesn't have to be on an alien planet. I don't like all the problems that it's always going on. I mean, it seems very, very unsafe thing to have on a ship full of people. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I usually don't have a overt hatred of the holodeck programs. A lot of them are weaker episodes that doesn't really necessarily make it bad because it's a holodeck. But anyway, so yeah, but I have to definitely, I would be remiss not to mention again the amazing trio of Tierney, Jason, and Boyette as Red Block, Leach, and Bell, respectively. They were so good. They were so good.
Blonde or brunette? She's a lady, all right. And her name is Enterprise. Sounds like a working girl to me.
Compared to what they would have to be. You know, this is TV. You don't have to chilling your inner fist being too hard usually to make it. You usually, you know, say your lines, move on, maybe, you know, genuflect just a little bit for the audience. But I mean, you don't have to really immerse yourself. These guys seem to really immerse themselves in the character. And while Tierney kind of plays a lot of the same role he played before, he just does it with such a plomp here. He is such a good bad guy.
For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. A Newtonian truism which you have obviously neglected.
And these three really save the episode, because other than that, this episode is trash. So let's get on to the cons. There's a lot of them. The main story is the holodeck. The side story of the Haradan greeting is just lame. I guess it could be a sticky situation, potentially, but I didn't find it interesting and barely see any of it anyway. It's only like 5 minutes of the episode. Most of the dialogue and banter is just cringeworthy. The longing looks between Picard and Crusher here are once again cringy. There is a kind of funny thing where Beverly obviously gets a little miffed because she thinks she's getting the captain all to herself on the holodeck when he says, "Bring along that historian guy and we'll have a good time together."
Why not come with me?
Yes, I'd like that.
I want to take that 20th century historian.
Who, Waylon?
This is how oblivious Picard is, right? Such niceties. So, yeah, it's just bad. Of course, the Due Machina of freaking Wesley Crusher again to come and save the day is just, it's so played out already. This early in the series, it's like, just leave, you know, Beaver, let him go play with Eddie Haskell or something, you know, just, he doesn't have to fix everything. You have an engineering section. I know you have a lead chief engineer, but they even hinted that Geordi was capable of fixing the problem now, but they had to stick Wesley on there again. This kid's 16. He knows the entire ship better than anybody else. Okay, he's a super genius, but, I mean, okay, he read in a book. Doesn't mean he has practical application. Ugh. Just quit having him fix everything. This is not Will Wheaton's fault. That's just what they did with the episode. And he wasn't bad or anything in it. It's just that enough with Wesley already. But we're going to see a lot more of him fixing things in the future. So, yeah, just most everything else is just, it's dull. The episode is really dull until the historian gets shot. And then it all picks up. And then it's good. It's really good and atmospheric. But yeah, outside of that, I can't recommend too much. So I would have to say, if I was going to rate this episode, this is like, gosh, it's bad by default. But the unexpected joy of watching those three characters I outlined before raises it up. So I'm going to go ahead and give this like a moderate. It's okay. Probably a lot better than some of the episodes that's preceded it. That's not even probably, that's for sure. But it's mostly a weak episode that's just salvaged by some really good actors. And it's funny, none of those actors are the Enterprise crew. So, go figure. Maybe they needed to have more guest stars in the first season and more bit roles, because it certainly helped this episode. So, yeah, it's just okay. The last third's really good. The first, 2/3 of it, very forgettable, very bland, very pretty much bad. So, outside the visuals, of course. So, anyway, go ahead and leave it there. Yeah. It was just okay, but on the lower end of okay. All right, enough. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more of the Star Trek Next Generation review content, music review content, comic review content. You know how it is. If I can review it, I will do it. I'll be continuing my Nightmare on Elm Street series review. So there'll be some more of those posted here in the very near future. And please let me know if you've seen this episode, what you think about it in the comments below. I'll be really interested to hear from you. These are on Netflix, so if you haven't watched it or maybe you've never seen it, don't remember it, go check it out and then let me know what you think. Was I too harsh on it? Was I not harsh enough? I'm always interested to see the comments, and I answer everybody. So anyway, that was a long-winded goodbye. Once again, the big goodbye.
This is the big goodbye.
So thanks for watching. Until next time, this is Genome, just wishing he could be in a 40s pastiche. Out.
Blanche, blanc, arnique, carnique.